All right, it is my pleasure to introduce Jeri Jones, a man who needs no introduction. Like everyone knows Jeri Jones. He's helping us out with the field conference coming up next fall. He's playing a prominent role in that, so stay tuned. If you guys are eyeing up the field conference, stay tuned for registration details. That should be coming out fairly soon. And he's also the host of the popular Zoom Rock Room, which if you guys aren't aware of that, you should check it out. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeri, and he's going to give us a history lesson.
Okay. Thank you, Al. Let me get my water over here. And my pointer here. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I may need help there. Yeah.
Okay. Get you back to the beginning. There you go. And there's your point.
There's the point. Okay.
No,
All right. Great to be here tonight for Hags.
I'm fine with whatever.
And I was always taught you have to open your program up with a joke. So in my younger days, I worked at a bike shop. And it took me 1 week to make it up to a spokesperson. So anyway.
Very funny.
You read about some people and you might research some people and you wish you could have met in your life. And Atreus Wanner is one of those people in my circle that I wish I would have been around in the late 1800s and early 1900s to have met Atreus, because he's, as you're going to find out, an incredible guy. And he also avoided cameras very well, because apparently this picture is like the only one of him in the field. And as you'll see, there's a Franklin Marshall picture of him too, but he did not like cameras at all. So anyway, Atreus was born in Washingtonville, Ohio in 1852. And sometime a little bit later, his parents actually did move into York County. And he chose to go to Franklin Marshall College, where he graduated at the age of 21 in 1873 with at that time, a degree in education. He was going to be a professional educator all of his life. So took him 4 years to get his degree at Franklin Marshall. And he did come back to York County. And this is a new piece of information that one of my historian friends found in doing research for a newspaper, was that at the age of 21, maybe celebrating his graduation from Franklin Marshall College, Atreus Wanner lost a finger when he was shooting a gun down actually at Hanover Junction, which is one of our stops for the field conference in October. So I had no idea that this happened until my friend Tom Youngling came up with this and sent it off to me. So apparently Atreus was thumbless from the age 21 years old and older. So Atreus did become a City of York school district teacher, and he became assistant principal at York High, known as also as William Penn Senior High School in York, and the principal. And by the way, that's my alma mater. And unfortunately, when I was a student, I had no idea, never heard of Atreus Wanner when I was there, like, who's he, And there was even apparently a vocational center right attached to the school that I was not aware about, called the Wanner Center. So it only took me 50 more years after I graduated to figure that out. So anyway, he started his educational career in 1882. I think that's about 30 years old. He married Clara Eckert, and they resided at 29 East Philadelphia Street in downtown York. If you're acquainted with York, this is right across the street from the new government center. That's kind of like behind me there in that picture. and it's now the law offices of Blake and Gross. So that's where he and Clara made home for a good many years. And I'd like to get into the house and see if there's any fossils still laying in the corner that he may have collected or not. But anyway, so he immediately became really interested in local history and local paleontology, really, okay? And one of his first reports that he wrote that was actually published by the Smithsonian was this report, 1893, on artifacts found in the York area, generally speaking. But we do know that he did collect and he basically collected and documented the artifacts from a place called Indian Rock. That's where my pointer is there. That's actually it's at the base of Indian Rock Dam. If anybody knows where Indian Rock Dam is, Indian Rock Dam Road, Indian Rock Dam Campground, Indian Rock Elementary School. But anyway, everybody always wanted to know where Indian Rock was up until about 1984 when I found out where Indian Rock itself was. So, but we did some work there about 2 winters ago with the Corps of Engineers to figure out how much sediment washed up against the rock since the 1900s, or in early 1900s. But anyway, we did not find any artifacts. We weren't really looking for any. But Atreus did find stuff there, similar to what you see in the right-hand corner picture there. But Atreus started his paleontology, his amateur paleontology, by wanting to look in the Triassic of northern York County. He got rumors of things that might be up there, like dinosaurs. Okay, and he got his dinosaur hat on, and I'm going to go dinosaur hunting. And some of this program actually is a follow-up about 2018. Me and my small crew, we spent a winter retracing Atreus' steps. Where did he go? What did he find? So you're going to see some of that in here. So he went into the Gettysburg Formation, basically, in northern York County, to find these dinosaurs. And one that he wrote about very intently was a place called the Midway Quarry. And we did not exactly know where Midway Quarry was. This right here is actually called Midway Road. And there's a creek crossing there. And actually one of the Pennsylvania Survey friends I have up here, Rosanna Bear, I asked her, I'm looking for Midway Quarry. Can you help me out? She called up LiDAR and she put an arrow right there. That must be the Midway Quarry. So we actually got permission from the landowner and went to that site. And right there it is. So today, this is what Midway Quarry does look like. They took out sandstone basically for blocking around fireplaces, chimneys. Very small operation, but apparently Atreus was called there to find some dinosaur stuff. So it is, as I said, in the Gettysburg Formation. Nothing dramatic. You know, the dip is 30 or so degrees to the northwest, as you would expect it. But looking a little bit in deeper detail, Atreus actually eventually wrote one of his scientific papers in 1887 about the Midway Quarry. Actually, the annual report for 1887, the discovery of fossil beds, everything else in the Triassic. And all this is about the Midway Quarry. And because this is a great article to show you his talents. He not only was a good educator, he had good observation for picking up dinosaur foot tracks and algae. He also was a great artist. These are some of his drawings, okay, that he found at Midway, drawn to scale. And again, back in the 1880s, not a lot of people did this. So he actually drew the trackways And there's several different types, of course, aren't there. Here's some pictures of the algae that he was picking up in the sandstone. Very detailed artwork. So very talented man. This is a kind of a bigger view of the Midway Quarry. We found very little bedrock exposed there in 2018 because of debitage being on top of everything. But I'm sure there's still a lot of bedrock there. I'm sure there's still footprints and things to be found. So he actually drew part of the quarry with the slabs, numbered the slabs, and within the 1887 article, he describes each slab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as in detail what was on them. Some more drawings of dinosaur footprints. Didn't really have a name at that point in time. Okay, and he was not the one that really named these. You're going to find out what these were really named here in a little bit. But again, his talents of drawing, really, really cool. Here's just one more slab that he did. And on our inspection of the sandstone, this is one of the algae that he described as algae. That may be still controversial. Is it really algae? But somebody needs to take a look at that and yay or nay that sort of thing. So I'm convinced that there are still footprints there. If anybody has any extra money in the fund that you'd like to have a summer project done, I believe the property owner would go along with a excavation project going on. Another site that he picked on was along the present day Norfolk Southern Railroad at York Haven. This is Bruner's Island down here. Anybody that plays golf at the Royal Manchester Golf Course in Manchester? That's right above the site. But there's a beautiful Gettysburg Formation railroad cut, not only to the right, but also back to the left further, that's not on the slide. But he went there, not looking for dinosaur footprints, but for something else in the Triassic, and that was plant fossils. Okay, and these are actually from the Smithsonian. We got to go to the Smithsonian archives and look at Atreus's collection, and did the best I could do on photoing things. So this Pauleza fern plant fossil from the Gettysburg, again collected by Atreus, and this is one of the ones that was listed in the 20th annual report of the USGS, where he wrote an article about the plant fossils of northern York County. Here's another one from the railroad cut that he was working on, and same species. Again, this was also in the annual report for the USGS. And Fontaine, as you're gonna meet Fontaine in just a moment. He became, although Atreus did a lot of identification himself on the species and was pretty accurate with his identifications. Now here's one from the Little Conewago Creek. Anybody knows where Little Conewago is? That's an interesting creek cutting through the New Oxford and the Gettysburg Formation. There's a lot more in that creek bank than fern fossils or plants I should say. Since Atreus was around, there's been like Rudodon teeth found in Little Conewago Creek. Rudodon was a Triassic reptile that looked like a crocodile. So there's some reptilian fossils there too. So he reported on this, and a matter of fact, we have kind of proven to ourselves that there was along the little Conewago Creek, there was people called it a copper mine. It was actually a very shallow shaft. It's now water filled, and they called it a copper mine, but there's no copper there. We kind of proved that that was actually one of Mr. Wanner's sites. He actually dug a shaft to get down and get these plant fossils. So we have it in our plans this winter to de-water the shaft so we can actually see what it was. All right, he found some petrified wood. And there's a discussion. I like to find out the real answer. Some people tell me that there's actually no fossilized wood in Pennsylvania. That they're actually telling me it's not petrified; it's fossilized. So I like to get that straightened out before I do any more education. But anyway, okay. So we saw this piece of petrified wood from the Atreus collection. Easy place to find. Fox Run and Little Conewago Creek. That's easy to find on a topographical map, right? So we get the map out, actually Google Earth, and we look at Google Earth, and what do we see? The Dover Township Sewage Facility, sitting right on top of it. Oh my, that's not good, right? So, yep, we're not bashful people. So we call the Dover Township Sewage Facility people up and explain to them the story. Mr. Wanner collected plants from your property. Can we come up and just take a look around? And they said, yeah, come on up. We'll give you a tour and all that. So they gave us a wonderful tour. They also gave us a map of how Fox Run had been rerouted to work with their system. So we were able to actually find the original, the real junction of Fox Run and Little Conewago Creek. It's under the parking lot. They said, well, in a couple of years, we're going to be doing some major work here. We're going to be excavating and putting new pipes in. And, we're going to let you come and check out the rock when we start that project. Well, unfortunately, that project did occur, but the people that we were working with in 18 are no longer there. So we never got invited to participate in that hunt. But anyway, all right. So William N. Fontaine. Okay, he was a professor at West Virginia University and the University of Virginia. He was one of the best paleobotany geologists of the day in the 1800s, and he got to meet Mr. Wanner at one of the professional meetings, probably the AAAS meetings, and he had been reading about what Mr. Wanner was doing and what he was finding in Northern York County. I got to meet this guy, so they got together, and like I said, Mr. Fontaine actually took Wanner's collection and identified the stuff to verify what Mr. Wanner identified correctly, and he named some things that Mr. Wanner could not figure out. So here's some of Mr. Wanner's drawings, again, of the plant fossils that he was finding. And in 1900, they joined together for the 20th annual report. With some of these names, they have pages and pages of the graphs and the pictures. And here's the way that the report, throughout the report there were Mr. Wanner comments, followed by Mr. Fontaine's comments. So you can obviously see that the Ctenophyllum plant, as Wanner described it, again, from the railroad cut I just showed you, just south of York Haven. And if you notice the name down here, the last name is Wanneria. So Mr. Fontaine named the Ctenophyllum Wanneria, of course, after Atreus. So that's the first fossil that Mr. Wanner got named after him. And actually, there was a second plant fossil that was also added to the list with his last name there. Well, you know, I guess that got to be boring for Mr. Wanner as time went on, like looking for dinosaurs, plants. Okay. I need to move on. I need to find something more exciting. So he moved south into the York Valley and Lancaster Valley. That's called the Cambrian rocks. Now we're going back to the Cambrian with mostly the Kinzers Formation and a little bit of ledger in here. So there's a 1878 map of York County and the Lancaster in the York Valley with the Kinzer and the Ledger Formation, pretty much running where Route 30 runs today. And he started to catalog trilobite sites along with Skolithos. Maybe some of you have heard of Skolithos worms. So speaking of which, how about that for a little segue there? Mr. Wanner started to find Skolithos, which of course Charles Darwin had already documented before Mr. Wanner came around, as far as what they were and the age. But Wanner started to find more sites. And he actually wrote an article about Skolithos in the York, mostly York County at that point. And that article was very crucial because one gentleman's eyes caught that article. His name was, I'm going to tell you in a second, but by going to one of the American Association of the Advancement of Science meetings, Mr. Wanner got to meet up with Charles Doolittle Walcott, who was one time the director of the USGS. Later in life, he became a director of the Smithsonian. And Mr. Walcott fell in love with Mr. Wanner's work. He's working in the Cambrian. He's finding Skolithos. He's finding trilobites. I want to know a bit more about the Cambrian, particularly in Pennsylvania. So as you can read the side note there, that if you don't know it, Charles Doolittle, I love that middle name, Doolittle. He's known for finding the Burgess Shale find up in the British Columbia, which is a site that has perfectly preserved soft tissues of Cambrian trilobites and Cambrian life, actually. It's the place to go if you're into the Cambrian. So anyway, Charlie became friends with Atreus, and it got to the point. There he is a little bit later in life at the Smithsonian. But Mr. Walcott felt, I need to go to York and Lancaster County and see what Atreus is doing. And we do know from the Walcott diaries that 2 times Walcott came to York and spent 2 or 3 days with Atreus. And Atreus took him around to York and Lancaster County, showing him, I found trilobites here, I found Skolithos over here. Walcott was using that to map out the Cambrian. I just threw this picture in. I think we all should dress to go into the field this year at the field conference. We need to be wearing our best of the best, okay? And be like the Walcott family there. Anyway, another fossil that Wanner was finding got to be named the Yorkia Wanneria. It's a brachiopod in the Cambrian, mostly in the Antietam Formation. If anybody knows the York County geology, Antietam is very productive of these little guys, okay? And there's a tag that's down at the Smithsonian that goes with this specimen. And actually collected by, this was actually collected by Schuchert, which is a paleontologist a little bit later. He collected this in 1892 and 93. But he named it after, again, Wanneria, Mr. Wanner. So they're very common around the York Valley if you know where the Antietam Formation is exposed. But anyway, like I said, Walcott and particularly Atreus Wanner they were interested really in the Kinzers Formation. The Kinzers is like the Burgess Shale of eastern Pennsylvania. Yes, preservation is not as good as the Burgess Shale by any means, but it has a good variety of species. Not only trilobites, but there's some very, very old brachiopods. There's some algae. You might have read that article that was in Pennsylvania Geology like 2 years ago about a new echinoderm found within the Kinzers in York, a brand new species. So the Kinzers isn't done. There's still things in the Kinzers to find, but Walcott, this is what Walcott really wanted to see. Why did I throw this in here? Okay, so I got out of sequence. So here's a picture of a Owen Ellis trilobite, which is what the Kinzers is well known for. And like I said, Walcott would come to York, and according to the diary, he and Atreus took the train like to Lancaster, stayed overnight in Lancaster one time, overnight. Then they came back to York, and Walcott always dined with them at their house in the evening before he went back to Washington. So that's an example of Owen Ellis. There's several species of Owen Ellises within the Kinzers. There's actually a Poduminous trilobite, and there's another one coming up here too. So Walcott eventually did publish his research, 1896, Cambrian rocks in Pennsylvania, and a lot of that information that's in that report is due to Atreus. So there's a Walcott map showing the York County is down here, and the Cambrian is the dark green coming in through here. And loads and loads of pictures in the Walcott article. The different species of trilobites and body parts that they found of trilobites, mostly within, again, the Kinzers, and a little bit within the Ledger Formation, which is more of the limestone setting. So, as a surprise to each other, Walcott did not know Wanner was working on this. Wanner did not know Walcott was working on this, but they had a trilobite that did not have a name. And they both said to myself, I'm going to name this guy after him. So Wanner said, I'm going to name it after Walcott. Walcott said, I'm going to name it after Wanner. So it became the Wanneria Walcottia. So they surprised each other with the gift of owning a half trilobite, if I can say that. So anyway, so that was a brand new species found again in York County, and Wanneria is only found in 4 places in the world. I think Utah is the only other state in America, and the other 2 are countries like Greenland is one, I know for sure. I forget where the 4th one is. So Wanneria Walcottia only exists basically in Pennsylvania and Utah in North America. The type specimen, which is down at the Smithsonian, was collected over at Fruitville, and it was actually collected by Mr. Reeser, who was a 1920s paleontologist, and he made that the type specimen. There's one of Wanner's that's down at the Smithsonian again. This is what's called the holotype, hypotype, I'm sorry. And again, collected it at near the Fruitville, Lancaster County. This is out of the Carrie Mack collection, who lives in Lancaster, who's a very fine collector. So he has a number of Wannerias in his collection. And in 1986, Olson and Bard that did the classic Triassic dinosaur classification. 1986 said, Atreus Wanner needs a dinosaur named after him. So there's Atreus. Okay, and there's actually a subspecies, a Canidus, and the other one's a Milfordus. But Atreus means Atreus's foot. So I kind of end with this, with the thought of how many other educators, how many other people in the country actually have 5 fossils named after them. You know, 2 Triassic plants, the brachiopod, trilobite, and the Atreus dinosaur. And like I proclaimed, if you see a picture of Atreus Wanner, let me know, please, because I need to add him to the 2 that you just saw in this program. Okay, so what happened to Atreus after he retired? Well, the article that was in Pennsylvania Geology a number of years ago kind of gets sketchy after 1927. They know in 1910 he donated a lot of his specimens to the Smithsonian. 1927 he actually gave almost the rest of his collection to the Smithsonian, including the brachiopods, the plants. There's actually several slabs of dinosaur footprints from Midway Quarry that are missing, that are not at the Smithsonian, that are supposed to be there. But anyway, we do know that sometime after 1927, and that piece has not been filled in, he moved to Mount Gretna, Lebanon County. And like I said, actually his son attended the dedication of the Wanner Vocational Center at York High in 1947. Mr. Wanner himself was not there. His son went and represented. And after I wrote a blog for York Daily Record, when I used to write geology blogs for YDR, my article kind of stopped here because we did not really know, but the superintendent of York City Schools read the blog and said, "Hey, Jeri, I got some additional information on Atreus for you." And he emailed me a lot of stuff that they had in their archives as far as who he was, who Atreus was. So I came to learn that Atreus was actually buried at Prospect Hill Cemetery in York. And so we again called the cemetery and asked them directions to the tombstone for Atreus. And they said, well, actually, he's in the mausoleum. And I said, oh, can we go in? He said, I'll meet you out here. I'll unlock the door and you can go in. Which is kind of creepy. That's the first time I've been in a mausoleum. But yeah, there's Atreus. He died in 1852. Remember, he was born in 1872, so he was 80 years old when he died. I'm sorry. He died in 1938. I'm sorry. So he was only, he was basically, still about 80 years old. And his wife is right next to him. Don't know really much about his wife, really. She was kind of in the background, obviously, through all of this. So without Atreus's contributions, he really laid the foundation for Triassic fossils in York County and Cambrian fossils in York and Lancaster County that everybody else just kind of built on top of. So that's the end of my program. I hope you learned a little bit about Mr. Wanner, and thanks for having me here.
have plenty of time for some questions. So anyone online, you can put in your questions in the chat. And I have a question, like, aside from going to his high school, where did the interest come for you to pursue this endeavor to learn about him?
Oh, I became interested in geology in 6th grade as a science fair project. Due to my grandparents bringing me a box of rocks and minerals. Atreus kind of came up when I was after college, when I came back to York County and worked for York County government. I started to read a lot of the Atreus literature that he wrote. York County, I mean, that's my backyard. That's where I belong. So I just felt I needed to get out there and retrace his steps, like I just showed you, and learn as much about him as I can. Like I said, there's still some gaps, sort of thing, but yeah, he's my main man. I always wanted to meet.
Uh-huh. Any quick? We got a comment. Nice presentation. Always happy to hear about past paleontologists around where we live. Yeah, that's a good point. We think of paleontologists as being elsewhere, but they're right here in our backyard.
Right in your backyard.
And doing work in our backyard. So that's even better.
Yep.
Any other questions?
What are those specimens that were they actually at the Smithsonian then, or where did you see the photographs?
Yeah, they're in the back room
Oh,
of
okay.
the Smithsonian. And we had got permission and made arrangements to go down to DC one day, and
Yeah.
they kind of got their drawers out and left us alone. Do what you want to do.
Yeah, how do they compare with what you find in similar places now?
Oh, they're very good. Yeah, the one site we actually do work in the wintertime. That was one of Atreus's sites, but I've not found anything like he found. For one reason, I may be not in the right place. Plus, I'm trying to stay away from where the snakes are too. So, but yeah.
All right, got some questions from online. This person says, I'm very interested to see this research because we're doing similar historical collector research at invertebrate paleontology section of the Carnegie Museum in Pittsburgh. What are your next steps with Wanner? Are you researching any other historical geology paleo figures?
Not right now. I'm not. As far as Mr. Wanner, I'm just waiting for people to step forward and maybe give me information. I think we've done about as much as we can with Mr. Wanner with what we have in our collection and literature, right? Unless I can go to Midway Quarry and do an excavation, that'd be one place I would do because I think there's still stuff there. But nobody else right now. I love it. George Stoss and Anna Jonas Stoss too, and we've done some little stuff with them. But right now with the field conference, my mind's like ready for that. So
Another one. I'm curious if you're familiar with Lisbon Cox, crinoid collector, or William Beekman of New York.
no, I'm not.
Nope. Staying in York County. Okay.
Yep.
Alexander asks, the Triassic fossils found in York County, have they also been found in the New York Basin and other parts, or other parts of the Gettysburg Basin?
Oh yeah. Practically every county in southeast Pennsylvania has dinosaur stuff. Although Lancaster County is lacking right now. Although I think they got me there, but other than Lancaster County, every county in the Triassic in southeast Pennsylvania we've either found reptile teeth, bones, or footprints. Plants are actually more common than you realize. They're sometimes very hard to find as far as recognize them. But I just saw some from Chester County. Somebody sent me some pictures. So yeah, the plant fossils, as I said, seem to be really, really common if you know what you're looking at. But yeah, just get out there and look.
Midway Quarry, you probably mentioned it, but that's on private land, correct?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was owned by a older gentleman in 2018. I don't know. Not sure if he's still with us or not, but he didn't really know he had a quarry up there either.
Oh,
I said, there's a quarry up there. Maybe.
yeah. And I think you had the picture of the Kinzu, I guess it's the Kinzu Formation outcrop. It's right on the road there. I think you showed a picture of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a relatively new housing development right above the quarry.
Oh, okay.
On the hill.
Yeah. Did you find much on that outcrop? Because I've been to that, I can never find any.
We found some of the algae and
Okay, yeah.
there's bedrock there. You just need to get rid of the leaves and the forest coverings, but there's still rock there. And that's why I said, you can find dinosaur stuff there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Atreus found everything.
All right, William asked, did Wanner ever travel and collect south of the border into Maryland?
Not that we know of. He was like me, stuck in York and Lancaster County, you know.
So go ahead, Bill.
I'm just coming vaguely back to mine, and it may have been at Hague's or it may have been somewhere else. Seems to me there's somebody had an old quarry north of Lancaster on top of a hill. That, in the middle of a subdivision now.
Is that the one that Franklin Marshall owns?
I think, yes.
Yeah, that's the trilobite quarry. Franklin, very close to Delp Road and Fruitville Pike.
Correct.
The housing development on the west side of the intersection. And yeah, within that development is this wooded area. It's actually Amazon-y grown over now. I mean, it's terrible, but they bought that because that is the site of some of these good Owen Ellis trilobites, and Wanneria Peduminus has been found there. And they only let professionals in to collect. Yeah, that was one of the original locations for these guys to be looking.
Okay. So I wasn't hallucinating.
Nope, you're right on there, Bill.
So any other questions? Change topics slightly. You'd mentioned the field conference a couple times, and since you are helping us organize, is there anything you want to give as a preview? Like
Preview.
What can we be excited about? What should be, put this up here, and
My first thought is that you can get excited. It's going to happen this year. But no, we're doing, as I said, rifts, oceans, and volcanoes. We're going to spend Friday, October 4th in York County. We're actually going to take a train ride along the Northern Central Railroad from New Freedom, York County, up to Brillhart Station, a 13-mile train ride. And we're going to stop at 4 geological locations, and then a rest stop at Hanover Junction train station, looking at the Sam's Creek and the metamorphics. And there's actually 2 rock cups that we're going to let you to tell us what's going on there, because we can't figure it out. You have a question, Bill?
Yeah, is that with a steam engine?
I don't think it's going to be a steam engine. They don't use the steam engine very much.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, okay, yeah, so that, the cursor right now. So,
Stop at Indian Rock?
we're gonna stop just south of Indian Rock.
there we go.
So, here on the left-hand side, this is the Northern Central Railroad right here. And we're gonna hop on New Freedom, like I said, and look at stop 1 and 2, which is the Sam's Creek. We have some new information about the Sam's Creek metabasalt, and there's a wonderful exposure of Octavora folding at stop 2. Stop 3 is going to be Hanover Junction, like I said, for the bathroom stop. And there's a small museum there. It's going to be a real quick. And stop 4 and 5 are going to be Chickies Harper's relationship. And there's some structural things going on there that isn't what Stos and Jonas described. That we're going to put it into your hands. What do you think's going on here? Because I've had several people looking at it and they're all walking away scratching their head. So that's, and our last stop on that day after lunch at the 4-H Center, we're going to stop. 7 is the RHI Magnesia quarry, which it's a huge dolomite quarry. They're using it for refractories. They don't do much public visitation, so we're considered lucky with their new geologist. Saturday's going to be a tour of South Mountain. We're hoping to start in Dillsburg, give you a beautiful view of the South Mountain from a little bit of a distance, and talk about some of the volcanics there. And then we're going to go down to Pine Grove Furnace, which is most of you have been to Pine Grove, tour of the furnace and talk about the chemistry of some of the water. And then we're going to get into the South Mountain area down around the Show State Forest. Mark Tucker, you don't know, Mark has done some new mapping within South Mountain in the last 2 years or so. He has a whole completely new story about South Mountain volcanics. If you haven't heard it, which I have not heard the whole story, but Mark has a whole different idea that you might want to hear. And so we're going to be actually headquartered in Gettysburg at the Eisenhower Resort. And there will be a couple of pre-conference field trips on Thursday going on. You can read about those when it's published. And Vince Santucci is going to be our keynote speaker at the banquet. He's with the National Park Service with fossil preservation. In fact, he's going to talk about the fossil preservation within the national parks. So it should be a great weekend, first weekend of October, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to have a bunch of fun.
You mentioned Mark Tucker's volcanic history of South Mountain. His map was published yesterday.
Oh,
right?
it is.
So we just got that out because we wanted to get it out before the field conference so people could study it and bring that along. So that's some exciting news. We just published. Go to PA Geode. That's where you can get all of our publications.
Good news.
Any questions about the field conference? I mean, we got the man here, so like this is the time to. If you guys, I know everyone wants to go to the field conference, but if in some strange reason you're unable to go, on this website we have all the stops, we have all the information. Plan a trip yourself on some of those stops. It would be accessible. So,
What's the website?
this is FCOPG.org, Field Conference of Pennsylvania Geologists.org. We have all of our, well, not all, we're putting old field guides on this website in an interactive map. We also have, I think all of the field guides or books are available for download, but we're creating some more interactive maps. So, but that's no replacement for the real thing. You really should go to the field conference. So how's that for a shameless plug? I got most of the officers sitting here, so that's why we gotta.
Plus, if you don't go to the field conference, you won't hear my newest jokes.
All right. Well, if that's it, I mean, if there's no other questions, well, thank you again. This was great. And we got one parting announcement, and that is about the certificates